Hi, and welcome to Journey Forward with Jory Rose, where you will gain insights, tools, and inspiration to get unstuck and live your best life. Jory is a licensed marriage and family therapist with a passion for helping people cultivate awareness and authenticity so they can show up fully in all aspects of their life. And now, here's Jory.
Hi, and welcome back to Journey Forward with Jory Rose. I am so excited to have my friend Natalie Bell on today. Natalie, welcome. I'm so happy you're here joining us.
Thank you, Jory. Thanks for having me.
So I have known you for over a year now, and our paths have crossed in what I think eventually would have crossed, given we are somewhat in the same field, but we came together in a business coaching setting. And I just knew as soon as I learned more of what you did that I want to know her, because I also love finding friends and colleagues in the same field. And once I did, just adore being around you and have had so much fun with you when we've had a chance to be together in person. So tell everyone more about yourself and where you are and what you do.
Well, I'm here in Los Angeles, California. I'm a mindfulness and self-compassion teacher and coach. So I teach in a lot of different settings. I teach mindfulness for UCLA. I teach mindful self-compassion for the Center for Mindful Living here in Los Angeles. I also teach it online through the Center for MSC. And I'm the director of online learning for that organization as well, working with Kristen Neff and Chris Germer and the team of teachers there.
So you're definitely in the circle with the top people in the field.
There's a lot going on. I also do a lot of corporate programs for Unplugged Meditation. I'm the director of corporate programs there. And then I run my own coaching and consulting business, Mindful Wellness. So I work with individuals when I have time. More groups. I'm offering a group coaching program starting again in the fall. And my big passion is to make all of these practices super relatable, practical. I really believe in getting real. Like, let's not stay in the theory or the idea or the concept of something, but let's get real.
I love that. So in order to get real, let's start off by saying, how do you define mindfulness and how do you define self-compassion?
Yeah, so mindfulness is awareness of this present moment with a sense of openness and a willingness to be with what's here without judgment. And even if you are judging what's here, just noticing that. Just continue to show up.
So to be practical in that, because I think in theory that all sounds lovely, how would you recommend someone to actually delve into that? And this is something that, I ask so many people who I have on as guests who are in the same field, because I have my own definition of how I teach this and how I talk about it. But I think the more definitions we can add into this pool of information, maybe one word will resonate with someone differently, or, a different intention around it will resonate. So I love getting as many different of these perspectives or entry points into this, common room, so to speak.
Yes, I totally love that. And I also approach mindfulness in different ways also. And in some way, it's just being here now. Like right now, what are you noticing? How do you know that you're aware? Or where is your attention right now? And wherever it is, that's what awareness is. That's what mindfulness is. Sometimes we are looking at things in a very critical way. Mindfulness tries to open a compassionate way of seeing. So it's not just attention, but it's a compassionate, open-minded paying attention.
Yeah, and that's so much easier said than done.
Really. I mean, we find ourselves again and again and again in judgment and aversion. It's like, I don't like how I'm feeling. I don't like what I'm thinking about right now. I don't like how I'm feeling stuck, or I'm tired, or I'm moody, or whatever it is that's happening to each of us every day, on and off. It's like cycles.
And we build such negative habitual patterns around this, in that resistance of not wanting to deal with what's hard. And it's so much more difficult to sit with what's hard. And yet there's that irony that the more we allow it in, the quicker it leaves. It's when we actually resist it that it becomes bigger and stays in our consciousness or in our presence or in our
subconscious too. Like it just continues that cycle. Yeah. And so I would say like self-compassion is that attitude. It's within mindfulness, that kind of curious, supporting attention that whatever I am confronted with in this moment, that I will offer a way of responding that is helpful or kind or warm or strengthening, that I can be here for myself like an inner ally. So no matter what's going on, somewhere I can shift into a helping way of being with myself.
Yeah, because our inner critics are so loud and they're so mean. And, I often say to my clients, we would never talk to anyone else the way we talk to in our own minds, let alone even an enemy, so to speak. And
absolutely.
We are not very nice to ourselves. And so it becomes a training, right? To learn that inner self-talk, to be your own best friend.
That's right. I mean, yesterday I was running late for an appointment. I was like, get dressed. I'm like, get something on. I'm like, and I heard this voice like, come on already. And it was like the tone of you, whatever, loser, you this, you that, whatever. And I just said, no, you know what? No, I've got this. Like, it was like the self-critic and the self-compassionate voice. And that's what happens when we learn self-compassion. The self-critic doesn't go away. It's so conditioned in us. It just keeps coming up. But we offer another voice to bring us along, to help protect us from that self-critic, and also to keep encouraging us and give us the strength and the fortitude and the energy to do what we need to do.
Yeah. Oh, it's so powerful. It's so helpful. And so how did you come to this practice of self-compassion? What was it that drew you here? Was there something in your life? Because I often find so many of us in this, in this field, if I were to speak really broadly of mindfulness and meditation and this awareness and consciousness field, had some moment where we realized I'm getting stuck somewhere, or there's got to be a better habit or pattern I can adopt for dealing with when life gets difficult or hard. So what was that for you?
Well, I had a kind of interesting journey, and it would take way too long to go into it. But I'll just say quickly, I started with these practices when I was a teenager. And I think when I consider like what drew me to that, I think innately I was very passionate about being present, conscious, like, what am I really thinking and what are you really thinking?
So was that something that was raised by your parents? Like, where did you get that? Because many teenagers don't inherently have that curiosity.
There were likely some influences that I don't even know about, and then some teachers I had that it wasn't a family thing, because what I was noticing in my family was just a lot of unconscious behavior. And then I think what was drawing me to connect in that way too was that I wasn't feeling loved enough as a kid, like so many of us, like all of us basically, not feeling like I was really being seen or held or loved enough. And looking for that inspiration, I kept turning inward and also turning into some outward influences. I was raised Catholic. Jesus was a beautiful figure of like, a kind of inspirational, aspirational being that we could be, that we could emanate those kinds of qualities of loving and acceptance, of healing, of inclusivity, interconnectedness, all of those things. That's the way I saw him and the way I was inspired. And then, when I was 18, I started studying meditation, and I quit college in my junior year of school to go live in an ashram for almost a year. This was about 30 years ago. Yeah.
So how was that well received by your parents?
No way. They were like, oh my God, call the psychologist quick. I mean, I'd never seen a psychologist before, but they were like, she's joining a cult. And of course, many of these things are cults, right? But I knew, I was very skeptical. I was a pre-med major, and I just knew that I was going there for my own personal experience. It wasn't about having a guru or anything, but just really deepening and committing to this idea of transcendence, of really connecting deeply to our inner resources and who we are truly, that I believe we have these natural gifts of loving, of compassion, of connectivity, all of these beautiful things. So I had incredible awakenings too when I was 18, when I was 20.
How long were you in the ashram for?
Almost a year, so
Wow.
a little less than a year. I ended up getting kicked out, but that's another story. Next time, right?
That sounds like a juicy story, Natalie.
It's so juicy. I know we always have juicy stories, right?
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. So, but the funny thing is, I quit that and I went into the real world. I tried to figure out, who am I? What am I going to do for a living? How am I going to be as a woman? And I was in a relationship with someone that wasn't so great. But what did I know? I was so young. And really, I had to go and live life and truly trip and fall on my face many times and get lost many times. I went into healthcare, became a physical therapist and a director of rehabilitation, and then and was unhappy doing that after so many years, kind of lost in that, became a medical device specialist. And in that job, I got so stressed out, working 3 jobs, sales, marketing, clinical, for Southern California, Las Vegas. And I really lost my center then. I really lost my way of regulating how I'm doing. I noticed I was getting resentful. I was trying to start a new relationship with my now husband. And I thought, I just can't keep living this way. I mean, I've really lost my emotional and mental center. And I feel like I can't get it quite back. And I'm going to recommit to all of these practices that I knew and have known for much of my life, to really re-engage that.
It's so interesting because, one might think, once you've lived in an ashram and you've really delved into it, that you are foreverly, that's not even a word, forever eternally changed in the wiring. But I love what you're saying is I had to go back to it because life started to take over. Yeah. And the busyness became the new normal. And it's almost like you had to unpeel the layers to get back to that center of what you knew was there. Yeah. And what you were doing is also kind of our American culture, right? It's got to get a job, got to do this, got to do this, got to do this. What's next? What's next? What's next? So It becomes a conscious intention to actually slow it all down and be intentional. Ask yourself, am I even wanting to be in this position of whatever it is I'm doing right now?
Yeah. Yeah. And so I had many lives, I had many different experiences in those years that were hugely influential. And I knew they would help me to one day be a teacher, because I knew I wanted to teach when I was 19, but I knew I didn't have the life experience that would be relatable to most everyday people. I didn't want to be teaching in an ashram. I wanted to teach people who would never even go to an ashram. And the truth is, the ashram is here. It's in our urban and rural, but daily lives, our modern life. And this is where the retreat is. So how do we show up in a way where I feel like I can be connected? I can feel at least some sense of being centered. I'm aware of how I am, or I can get back to that awareness, and I can help myself with that awareness, with that focused attention, to either calm or feel more grounded and stable, or more open and take this kind of open perspective taking that mindfulness gives us. And then also really caring and giving ourselves that sense that, whatever I'm feeling, whenever I'm struggling, I'm just connecting to the larger human experience. I'm never alone. Every time I feel bad or off or, not great, this is what it's like to be a human being. And now I've joined that experience.
I love adding that common humanity piece into the equation and into the understanding of compassion. I just this morning, I had a client, and I've worked with her for a couple of years now, and we were talking about self-compassion, and I knew I would be talking to you this afternoon, and I have done some trainings with Kristen Neff, and so I've created some handouts and worksheets based on those, and this interplay of the mindfulness and the common humanity and the kindness and the empathy and how all these overlap. And it's that idea that we were, almost joking about with my client of course you're unique, but your problems aren't all that unique, right? You are special, but your experience is not all that special. And if we can step out of the egocentric viewpoint of I'm the only one who's ever had this problem, then you're going to feel isolated in wherever you're stuck. But if you can recognize, wait, I'm not the only person who's gone through a divorce or struggled with a narcissist or dating or parenting or as a woman saying, who am I outside of these roles? Because those can be isolating because people are afraid to talk about what's not working. So we feel isolated, and yet to step into that common humanity is a reminder of, wait, I'm just part of the human race. And I'm not the first to have these problems. Mine are not the biggest. This is not something brand new. So that can even just be a comforting thought in and of itself.
Absolutely. And we can perhaps acknowledge that it feels like we are the only one. It feels like nobody else would ever feel as bad as I'm feeling right now, or would ever be in such a terrible situation as I am right now. Right? I mean, this is kind of the definition of shame, which is not only am I unworthy, but I'm uniquely unworthy. Like I'm uniquely unlovable. So, it's that nobody quite feels like I am. So the sooner we realize that all of us feel that way, we all worry that no one feels as bad as we do, that again, we're connecting to the larger human experience.
Well, and I wonder how you, in the work that you're doing with the self-compassion with this, and as a therapist, it comes up a lot in therapy around, especially women, and maybe that's just the majority of what my practice is. And so I'll qualify that the majority of my practice is women. But there's a deep sense, and you mentioned it early on, of feeling kind of unworthy of receiving love. And maybe it's because we didn't have that idealized parenting that our inner child was hoping for. And so now as it results in relationships, even if we have an amazing partner who deeply loves us, until we can learn to love ourselves and find our own worthiness, we can't receive their love.
Right.
And so to me, this becomes a really integral piece of healthy relationships, that unless I can almost reparent myself in a way to recondition my sense of worthiness and being lovable and self-worth in terms of, I'm not a bad person for these negative thoughts, negative emotions. And I often say there's no such thing as a positive or negative emotion. They're all natural emotions. They're all part of the human experience. So do you find that practicing self-compassion helps people heal those early childhood wounds around feeling I'm not worthy of receiving love or being lovable?
Absolutely. But it is a practice. So just knowing that, we don't learn like self-compassion once and then, okay, all of a sudden everything's just great.
Check that box. I did that. Oh shit, why isn't it working now?
Yeah. So, like this morning I was doing a very short meditation when I first got up, and I started with a loving kindness practice because I was really tired, and I thought I need just to settle on something to focus on, a few kind, compassionate phrases for myself, some wishes. And the way I practice meditation is I always, more than anything, I'm just greeting myself. I'm welcoming myself. And in that welcome, I say things like, beloved, remember me.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I love you. And in that moment, it was like, oh, wow, receiving and receiving and receiving. And what we're learning to do again and again in the deepest part of these practices is to receive, to open ourselves, to be given to be held, to be acknowledged. And that is completely a reparenting moment, right?
Sure.
And I keep building that every time I do it. And the work continues.
Right.
It could continue for the rest of my life.
And I think part of the awareness in that is to notice the yeah buts that are popping up. Yeah, but I don't deserve that. Or yeah, but not this time. Or yeah, but I actually did screw up. Or I did treat that person badly. So we have all those defenses or excuses to not believe it. But what you're saying is that's okay. Not judgmentally. You're human. And that being human is going to make mistakes and maybe miss the mark. But the compassion to say, yes, and I'm human.
And the compassion also says, wow, this hurts that I'm so doubtful still. This really is hard to feel. It's so uncomfortable. I even hate feeling this way, how hard this is. And that tone, that kind of supporting, like friendship tone that's there, like, this is really sucks, but there's a wish still to be here. Like, I know this is hard. Hey, I'm right here. And it's like the pain hasn't gone away, but something has come to surround it, which is loving and willing to be here for me, even in my struggle, and even because this feeling's not going away. Because compassion doesn't take away those feelings. It just holds you and it lifts you and it just embraces you. So the difficult emotion that was there shifts. There's something that's loving that's also there. And that's the beautiful thing. We even see that in MRIs, functional MRI, that compassion activates this, even centers that release dopamine. So these kind of motivating, positive feelings center, even if we're feeling bad.
I love that
isn't it?
so much. And I have to say, I'm so glad you mentioned loving kindness practice, because that is probably single-handedly one of the biggest shifts of how I got unstuck from when I was, starting to question, did I want to stay married, and how could I ever go through divorce, and what would that look like? And I've never been alone, and all the stories. And I didn't believe I was capable. And so I started a daily loving kindness practice, and with the pretty traditional, loving kindness words of, may I be happy, may I be healthy, may I be peaceful. And I actually even started that out loud to my daughters at night as part of their bedtime ritual of, may you be healthy and strong, may you be happy, may you be peaceful. And I would give them then one more specific wish for that next day. And they would say to it, Mommy, give me my wish tonight. And it was part of our nighttime routine. It was so beautiful. And sometimes my youngest daughter would give me a wish in return, and she would say the words back to me. And my older daughter had a hard time receiving it sometimes. And I thought, I'm not getting a lot of validation by giving it. Maybe she doesn't need it. And I realized, no, she really needs it more. It's just hard for her to receive it.
Right.
But my own loving kindness practice shifted into me asking myself, what is it I most need? What can I be the only one I can give myself that someone else can say, but until I believe, I won't let it in. So every single day, still to this day, it's been at least 6 years, where I say every single morning, may I be strong and confident. May I be capable. May I be happy. May I be fulfilled. May I be healthy. And then I add whatever else I need. I'll never forget, there was one day I was in therapy and I said the words out loud about being strong, confident, and capable. And I was like, who said that?
Right.
It was like, after all this practice, I finally believed it. It didn't happen overnight.
Yes.
But I didn't let the fact that it didn't happen overnight mean, I can't do that. This practice must not be for me.
That's right. So it takes a while, right? It takes this kind of repeated practicing and going back to do that again and again. And recalling that it's just so that we train our mind to have that access to loving, to caring, to supporting, to being strong and courageous, and that's in the midst of all kinds of things, because we're still not trying to kind of cover over things. We're just helping ourselves whenever we can.
So aside from loving kindness, do you have a favorite practice in the self-compassion practices that you teach that would be a really good, tangible takeaway for anyone listening who's saying, oh my God, I need more of this. Now what do I do?
Right. Well, no doubt the kind of standard practice, the real foundational practice of self-compassion is the self-compassion break that Kristen Neff and Chris Germer came up with, that 3-part practice. So Kristen Neff's model is that self-compassion is made up of mindfulness. I'm aware that I'm under stress. Common humanity. I'm not alone. Other people feel like this in this kind of circumstance. And then kindness, self-kindness. Hey, I'm right here for you. Or may I be kind to myself because I'm struggling. So that practice you can run through. I mean, I can run through it if you wish, or we can just talk about it.
Sure.
Is really powerful, because a lot of people, when I teach self-compassion, and I've had people take my self-compassion course 3 and 4 times, like the same 8-week course, they take it again and again, because it just keeps evolving and we keep unfolding.
Is that an online course, or is that an in-person that you
both in person and online?
Okay.
And so we keep practicing this, but oftentimes we get stuck thinking that self-compassion should allow us to never feel bad again. You know, it's like we get stuck in that paradox, really. And what we have to do is we just keep coming back to the self-compassion break, like, wow, I'm still feeling bad, or I'm still worried, or I'm still afraid. So we acknowledge what's really here, mindfulness. We just say it, we name it, we validate it. And that already is a self-compassionate act.
And we also know that studies show that by naming it calms the amygdala, and it will quiet that emotional alarm, because as soon as we name it, we are now in observation of it.
Yes.
Versus being in the middle of it.
Right. We've activated the conscious part of our brain, that prefrontal cortex, so we can begin to regulate how we are. So naming it's key. I use this practice all the time. I mean, whether I've, injured myself, or I'm stressed trying to get somewhere in LA, no doubt.
Just traffic as a great opportunity to practice all the time.
Yeah, why do you think I teach this stuff, right? Or maybe I'm having a difficult time in a relationship. So naming what you're experiencing is such a key. It's a window.
It's so overly simplified. It's so overly simplified, but so powerful to just say, wow, I'm really overwhelmed right now. And it's, I think, the tone of voice in which you say it makes all the difference from it being a judgment to a compassionate response. Would you agree?
Totally. You could say, like, God, I'm so tired, like in a really mean, mad, judgmental way. Or you can say, like, God, I'm just so tired, with a kind of not curious, but a kind of
a gentleness, right?
A comforting, friendly, like, I know, God, I feel so tired right now. So how we say it matters a lot, no doubt.
Does.
But the good thing with mindfulness is, even if we say it with harsh judgment, we can still notice that. You just start again. This is the power of mindfulness and self-compassion, which is you just keep starting where you are.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm really pissed at myself right now, I can just say, wow, I'm so angry at myself, and I hate myself right now. Wow, this really hurts, feeling that way. And God, yeah, may I show up for myself right now, or can I just find some kindness to be here with myself? And I know I'm not alone. Other people feel things like this in the circumstance. I've just connected again to what others feel. I'm never alone.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't know that, maybe we don't believe it, but we can try to reflect on that. And even if in the self-compassion break, we become mindful, we name our experience, we remember we're not the only one, and we offer kindness. If we hit just one of those or two of them, great. Most of us hit maybe two of them. Often the last part, the self-kindness piece, is often forgotten. So most of us running around with our heads cut off, like we do all the time, in half overwhelm and super busyness, we notice, wow, I'm really struggling right now, or I'm feeling upset at the conversation I just had. And of course, it's normal to feel upset. Other people go through this. And then we just kind of zip off to keep going. We don't offer ourselves that third, connection, kindness piece, which is, hey, I'm here to support you. I've got your back.
And what I want to tell our listeners is something that, because you and I are recording this on a video and I can actually see you, as you were saying those words, you had your hand over your heart and one hand on top of the other. And it was almost like giving yourself a little comforting hug, or that self-compassionate posture. That this is something I will work with my clients too, of, even just adopting that posture can offer us that self-kindness, that maybe the words or the tone isn't there, but just holding yourself in that compassionate way can help, I think, deepen those words to actually, oh wait, this does feel comforting. Let me offer myself some of that kindness in that physical touch sort of way, which is really powerful.
It is. So that's a really great thing to learn, soothing touch or supportive touch. It's either a hand or both hands on the heart. You can do a self-embrace. You can do one hand cupping the other hand, or hand holding the face. Wherever you can connect to yourself, it helps to connect to some physical part of ourselves, to we almost ground again in the intention to be kind. Like, hey, I'm right here for you. Like whatever we're doing, just in some way we cause a pattern interrupt in the moment. We connect physically with ourselves. We ground and center in that intention for kindness. And remember, like even as you were saying, when we name something already, we become an observer and we create some space to respond differently.
Yeah.
So this is the power amazing. Of that. I know.
And again, I feel like these tools are so simple and yet hard to remember to do.
Yes.
And part of it is just our conditioning and our habitual patterns. And maybe we were raised in a harsh environment. And again, believing we're worthy of feeling at peace or feeling lovable is a mindset to get around. So then we're compassionate around it. Look how hard it is for me to embrace these.
That's right. And then some of us too, you know, I always like to say that smarter you are, the more you think that you can just learn it once. Like I get the concept, but I never practice it. It's just not going to work. Because our conditioning is already wired in to be so judgmental and self-critical. So I remember many months ago, I was practicing. I noticed a moment of difficulty. I named it to myself. And then I kept, I was rushing off somewhere. And I said to myself, say the words. Like say something kind and helpful right now. Practice it. You've got to actually verbalize it to yourself inwardly. You don't have to. Of course, you don't say it outwardly unless you want to, or you're alone and feel comfortable doing that, or you're with a partner and you're sharing that kind of practice. But you've got to practice it and just keep coming back. And even if it seems like this isn't me talking because it sounds so foreign, just keep practicing.
Yeah,
the words that those possibilities, you being kind, you being supportive to yourself, will become a part of who you are, a trait instead of just a state of being.
I love that. And I think that's such an important reminder. And I'm so glad you said that we have to continue to do that, because that's also, when we come down to it all, we're really trying to rewire this unskillful wiring and create the new habits and patterns. And that's not going to happen overnight. And I want to share, I have a funny visual that I like to give with this, and I hope maybe you'll appreciate it, is I don't like to run. Like if you ever see those bumper stickers on cars of people who run marathons, like I really respect those people. It's just not me. So like when I see the bumper sticker that says 0.0, I don't run, like that's totally me. But I think about if I were to train for a marathon, right? I physically know how to run. My body knows what to do. I know how to do it. I can think about doing it. But if I were to train for a marathon, I would have to condition my body in a different way to do something I already know how to do cognitively and experientially. But I would have to physically train it through that, experience-dependent activity. Right. If I could just sit on my couch and say, okay, well, I'm thinking about running right now. That sounds like a great idea. I can visualize what I'll see outside, and it's different when we actually do it. And so I look at that visual of, I can't just think about training for a marathon. I actually have to physically do something. So all these things that you're saying, we can't just conceptualize. I'll just conceptualize being nice to myself. I know how to do that. I'll just think about being nice to myself or not judging myself.
Right.
But until we actually do it, we're not conditioning the muscle of our brain to actually become stronger in that form.
Yes. Yeah. Isn't it? It's fascinating when you put it in that perspective too, to think about what we really need to train. And it's not just a mental experience. It's an embodied physical, emotional experience too. Yeah. An energetic experience even, where we feel differently in our body, where we feel like we're receiving something and we're also creating that kind of a pause for ourselves, some space, right? And we all think we're always in such a rush, like I don't have time to be kind to myself. I've heard that before from some of my students. You don't have the time to be kind. I'm like,
but we found plenty of time to be unkind to ourselves.
One way or another, you're responding to yourself. So it's either unkind, it's mean, or it's neutral, or it's nice,
Yeah. Oh, okay, Natalie, I'll have to have you on again, because I think you and I could talk for hours about so many aspects of how to continue to bring this awareness and this training. But in the meantime, if people want to find you and learn more about your workshops and what you teach and all that you've got going on, how can they best find you?
So you can go to my website, nataliebell.com, and I've got another program that I'm launching again in September called the Thrive Inside group coaching program for a small group of women to cultivate not only all of these practices we've been talking about, but to actually deepen and accelerate our ability to respond with these kinds of supportive, resilient, encouraging voices, motivating ourselves with compassion like a good friend, like an inner ally. And so, we're going to workshop that one deeply together and use the power of the group to go deeper with that. So it's going to be really wonderful. And in the meantime, I'll be doing things online. So you can check me out on Facebook as well under Natalie Bell, Instagram, Natalie S. Bell. And
thank you so excited. Much. Yes, I've loved having you on and talking with you. And this is something I'm delving more into as well as far as teaching my retreats that I have coming up in the fall. I've got two, one at Marival in Tucson and one at Marival in Austin. Mm-hmm. And it is Journey Forward to Self-Compassion. Because I think, and especially for women, we get stuck here. And especially for women, we give so much to everyone around us and we forget to replenish ourselves. And then we feel selfish when we do, and we forget how to do it for ourselves, even though we can do it for others. And so I love that you're doing these groups for women, because this is what a big thing that I see with a lot of people is an easy place to get stuck. And the more reminders we can have of how to do it, how to have that common humanity, that group experience is powerful.
Totally. Yes. And then to know too, we'll still fall down like I did so many times, and I still do so many times.
Oh yeah.
Fall down. And we're just going to have those tools then to just help ourselves get right back up.
I love it.
Keep going.
What other choice is there to do but keep going, right?
Thank God we have each other.
Yes. Oh, Natalie, thank you so much for your time today. I've loved chatting with you, and you have such a beautiful way of teaching this, and you just embody that softness. And people's tone of voice can be very comforting, and even just your style in describing it, I just feel the softening of, I just want to envision Natalie's voice in my head saying these things, because you really embody it as a teacher. So thank you for doing the work you're doing.
Thank you so much, Jory.
All right. Thanks, you guys, for tuning in. See you soon.
To continue your journey forward, find Jory Rose on Facebook and Instagram to become part of her growing community. You can also gain access to her meditations, books, online classes, or to sign up for an upcoming retreat, visit her at joryrose.com. That's JOREEROSE.com.